I'm going to come forward, and then I'm going to ricochet. Bam! You see, just like that. Hey everyone, this is Dr. Perry from Stop Chasing Pain. In the video for this week, we are going to show you an easy thing you can do for a self-help, self-care technique for the actual throat. I use this all the time for myself. I teach it to my clients to do at home on their own, and I hope it can help you if you're experiencing some pain in the neck, in the front, or the back, maybe some headaches, even shoulder pain. And honestly, you might feel this one all the way down in towards the abdominal region to feel better with your digestive system. When you see the rest of the video, you'll understand why that might be. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoy it. Let's move right into the reset. Let's take a closer look at the structure that we're going to try to influence here, which is, of course, the throat, but more importantly, the esophagus. So you can see that that's coming down here in red from the anterior part of the throat, coming down behind the sternum, and it shifts to the left-hand side, just below the angle of the rib cage here. So you can see you've got the greater curvature of the stomach over here and then the lesser curvature. So the stomach's just a little bit more towards that left-hand side of rib cage. Then that's going to come down into the exit point called your pylorus, and then it's going to make its way through the rest of the gut tube. Now, the important thing to know about this esophagus when you see the video coming up is that it can get restricted anywhere along this pathway. If you have tightness or tension down below here at your diaphragm muscle that sits there, because the esophagus has to pierce through the diaphragm. So go back and look at some of our diaphragm reset release videos on our YouTube channel. They may be helpful for you. And your vagus nerve is going to actually wrap around this esophagus, sort of like vines that are growing up a pole or around a tree. And the vagus nerve is the cranial nerve number 10, which is the vagus nerve. You have a left one and you have a right one. That's the most important nerve to control the inflammatory reflex in the body. That's how well you can control inflammation. And it's the main player in the parasympathetic nervous system to help you heal, recover, and regenerate. So what you'll find is that if you're restricted in the motion down here at the esophagus, at the stomach, because of tension in the diaphragm, or you've got restriction in the throat because of tight fascia, cervical connective tissue, or some past trauma and stuff that you're going to see coming up in the later part of the video, you can cause an issue with the vagus nerve. And then that can lead to pain or discomfort virtually anywhere. Okay? But I want you to understand that this is an entire single connective gut tube from mouth all the way down towards anus. And you can have an issue right here that's going to cause issues downstream. All right. Now let's take a little bit of a closer look at the throat. So this is a side view of the body. This is the face here. You can see I'm coming around in green. And this is the back. Obviously, this, if you see the green, is going around your spine, your cervical spine down into your what's called your upper thoracics. And down in here is your manubrium / your sternum. And then, of course, look here, I'm stuffing around esophagus. So follow this line over, and you see that right here coming on up. So that's when you swallow some food. It's going to come down in here that way. But I want you to know you've got, look at this all. It's a bucopharyngeal fascia. That's fascia here. And you have cervical fascia in the front, superficial near the top, intermediate, and deep cervical fascia that's located there. And when we're going to be moving the throat around, you're going to start high up here at the hyoid bone, working your way down through that thyroid cartilage and also the larynx. Okay. You'll see me demonstrating where I want you to put your fingers when you're doing this type of stuff. But you can see that this is all interconnected through fascia. So you'll have a lot of people who may have tightness and tension in the back of the head and neck because they have issues in the front here of that esophagus and tight cervical fascia in the front. Then if we look at the next picture here of the anatomy coming up of the larynx, so this is a straight front view, and this is the hyoid bone. That's going to sit pretty high up underneath that jawline region, and you make your way down. And of course, you're going to find your thyroid cartilage here. That's where you're going to be working side to side, and you'll come down in towards that tracheal cartilage. And when you have your hands on these regions, your fingers are going to go right alongside of these structures, right up against it, like that, right? And you're just going to go side to side, like this, back and forth, but you'll start from the top and work your way down. Easy, not too much force, feel no pain whatsoever. If you do feel pain, try to lighten up your pressure, change the direction a little bit, and see if it eases up. Okay? And then now let's move into some fundamentals that I want you to know, and then we'll go into the resets. Fundamentals. You'll see in the video coming on up, I'll talk in greater detail about these, but often you have issues with the esophagus because of your what's called forward head carriage. You keep your head very far out over your body, not lined up over your torso. People who've had whiplash type of injuries called hyperflexion, where you bend your head really far forward, and then hyperextension, where it ricochets really far back. People who've also been in fights of any type, even competitive fights, boxing. Definitely if you've had something like a rear naked choke, or maybe you've been choked in real life because of an attack or something like that. Mouth breathers get this a lot because of the open mouth and the tongue placement at the floor of the mouth as opposed to the roof of the mouth. That's a big cause of all this stuff. And I want you to note, please go easy on your pressure. No pain at any time. Like I said before, if you do, ease it up a little bit, see if it improves. If it doesn't improve, then you stop. I don't want you to experience any dizziness or nausea when you do this. Move side to side, back and forth, left and right, different paces, and then keep pushing gently into what's called the direction of ease. That's the place where the throat wants to move the easiest. And then you hold that for a period of time. You'll see that coming on up. Start from the top of the throat and then work downwards. And there is no magical amount of duration, like repetitions or sets, or should I do it once a day, more than once a day, every day? It's variable. Okay. Just get in there, know what it feels like. And if you feel good doing it and you want to do it every day, by all means, you go right ahead. But I think you'll notice some really, really powerful changes throughout your whole body when you start to work around that throat region. Okay. Now let's move into the close up of the anterior part, and I'll show you how to do the easy resets. Now, one of the biggest things that can happen here is a whiplash head trauma. So that's where you'll get hit forward like this, and then you'll whip and ricochet backwards. From there, you'll get a compression and backwards, really big stretch into that region from the trauma. And then what happens is this whole area gets tight and tense, and you get what's called the muscle guarding reflex because of the sensitive structures in this area had trauma to it. Another big one is where you have what they call a forward head carriage, where the head lives far out here, the shoulders are rounded, a big curve in that thoracic spine that's hunched over here, people looking down at phones, and you stretch this tissue right here, and you can actually get a lot of underlying weakness in the neck muscles with extra tension. So you get high tension and weakness, and you now have what they call poor stability or control of the neck. Another one is where the tongue sits at the floor of the mouth all day long, as opposed to the roof of the mouth, which is where it belongs. People that have a tongue that goes in the floor of the mouth are often mouth breathers, where they're inhaling and exhaling through the mouth all day long, and the tongue is down here. That's going to feed a forward head carriage like this, and then that can cause tightness and tension. And then think about this: when you eat something and it's going to go down that esophagus, what happens if your head is out here all the time as opposed to pulled back and top dead center over your thorax here? So when you put your tongue to the roof of the mouth, make sure you go and watch some of our tongue videos. The tongue circles, we have 2 of those, and the tongue isometrics. That automatically can make improvements in how you feel in the front of the neck and the back of the head and the whole body. And just look at some of the comments that people have left under the video of just how many crazy, amazing changes for the better that they've had just from working the tongue. So I'm going to take this green like latex band here, and that's going to kind of represent the esophagus. Now you're going to stick stuff in your mouth, right? And then you got to swallow it. And then it goes down that esophagus here. And you remember the picture of in the early part of the video, it would come down more towards that left-hand side of the stomach and then enter into the stomach. So it can go down into the rest of the what they call that gut tube from mouth to anus. Now, the vagus nerve, which is cranial nerve number 10, you have a left vagus, you have a right vagus. That's the most important nerve in the body that can control what they call the inflammatory reflex, how well your body can heal and recover and control inflammation. And it's part of your parasympathetic nervous system. That's your relaxation, healing, recovery, regeneration. It comes off the brain stem in the back here called the medulla. And that wraps around the esophagus, kind of spiraling around. What can happen because of the forward head carriage, the ricochet and the tightness, the slutching and the rounding forward and the tucking underneath here is the esophagus can become shortened in its connective tissue or fascia. And that's going to cause tension. And watch what happens or what's supposed to happen if I bring my shoulders back and I stand up tall. You see how that should elongate, right? And even when I pull my head back up over my shoulders, that should elongate. Now, when you get into like a car accident and you have a whiplash, this is what happens. Watch this esophagus fascia. I'm going to come forward and then I'm going to ricochet. Bam! You see, just like that. And then that trauma in here can cause tension in the esophagus, which will impact the vagus nerve as well that wraps around it. So the esophagus should actually move up and down from its origin point to its end point at the stomach. So if I bend my head forward, the esophagus has got to move like this, right? I mean, this kind of motion of the esophagus should happen whenever I'm going to be moving my head. What if it doesn't? Well, then you can feel something down in here in your stomach region. You can feel it behind here in your thorax, the middle of your spine. Oh, and you're definitely going to feel it up in here. So, what can you do about that? Well, I like to just show people a very simple, easy way to get better motion along the sides of the throat here. Now, let me caution you. There's a lot of important structures in here, particularly with blood flow. The main blood flow route going up into your brain comes from here. It's called your carotid arteries, your left and your right. And that's the blood flow to the brain. And then you have the blood flow out of the brain from the internal jugular vein. That's bringing stuff down. So I don't want you to grip really, really hard in here. I don't want you to press straight back in towards the throat, towards the spine, unless you're really skilled with your hands. But this one you can easily do, right? You're going to start up high where you feel the sides of your throat like this. And you put your hands like that. All I want you to do is just gently move the throat from left to right. Doesn't take a lot. And notice, is it easier to move to your left or easier to move to your right? Do that a few times and see if it begins to free up. Now, you may find lying on your back, knees bent, feet flat, with your head on a pillow, it's easier to do this because you don't have to hold your head up. All right? You go back and forth. Now, let's say you found that the throat moves easier to your left, not so easy to your right. So I don't want you to force it where it doesn't want to go. What I want you to do is move it gently into the left of the direction where it wants to go. Don't push too far. Don't cause any pain or any discomfort. Make sure you can still breathe okay. Don't stop breathing. And hold it like that for about 10 to 20 seconds, sometimes up to 30. And then you gently let go. And what you'll usually find is it'll move easier now towards the side that it didn't want to go to. All right. So, first of all, find the throat, move it back and forth gently, being very aware of where you feel tension. Just go back and forth, maybe 10 to 20 times like that. And look, when you do that, you can do it with your hands, or what you can also begin to do is move the hands and turn the head a little bit. So now I'm getting head motion plus finger motion. It's just about the timing. Move down to the next spot. The further you go down, the more gentle I want you to go, especially when you get around the midpoint of the thyroid gland. And so I'm going side to side. And I'm right along the throat here. Yeah, I'm much more tense going to the right. So I'm going to see if that'll free up a little bit. I'm going to move my head a little bit with it. And it moves easier to my left. So I'm going to move it a little bit to my left and hold. Very, very gentle pressure here. Don't be afraid to work around the throat region. Nice and easy and gentle. It's just like any other tissue in the body that has tightness or tension or restriction. Then work your way all the way towards the bottom until you feel like you can't go anymore. And you can easily work your way back up. I want you to change your pace and your speed. Go slower at first, maybe go a little bit faster. Okay? And just explore the region. And after you do that, move your head in different directions, up and down, left and right, maybe small little circles. Don't get dizzy. Okay? And then move your tongue. Stick your tongue out, move it side to side, things like that, or even do some of our tongue videos after you do this one. And I think what you'll notice is that, wow, Doc, you know what? I actually feel a little bit better in my head and my neck, a little more free in this region. You may even feel like you're standing up more tall, lean, mean, and confident. Hashtag beast mode, monster mode, where you're just able to open up a little bit better and a little bit more. And this is when people ask me, how often should you do that? Well, there's no magic time frame. There's no magic number of reps or sets. You can just do that with what feels good for you. I would say check this region at least once a week, because you may be prone to tightness and stuff from returning, and see what kind of nice changes that you have. Okay, as we always say, effective things don't have to be complicated. You just need to be consistent. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the video. We really appreciate you tuning in. I hope you enjoy all the different content that we're putting on out. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button and post notification bell so you never miss when we put out a new video. We try to put out a long form video out once a week and a short form video out once a week as well. And go through our archives. We have a ton of videos that you should make your way through and check out. We'll see you on the next video.